I want to talk about your role on the House Natural Resource Committee. You had a markup. I don't know what that is the other day, but we're trying to do domestic energy here. Trump has kind of mandated that we'd kill two birds with one stone. You're looking at a nation that's 36 trillion in debt. And we can generate billions with oil, gas, mineral extraction in Wyoming. Let's get going, huh?
So you're using some real common sense, and I like that. Not a lot of people in Washington, D.C. do, so maybe you can join me back there and kind of educate people on how things really work. Yes, we had a markup in the House Natural Resource Committee the other day. What we're going through, Jake, is we're going through what's called reconciliation, which is a really rare opportunity. Because we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, we can actually do this budgeting process that requires only 51 votes in the Senate. So each of the committees has a responsibility within their jurisdiction to address certain aspects of reconciliation. Last week, I was in Judiciary Committee, and most of what we focused on, or a lot of what we focused on, was the budget associated with immigration and border security. So we actually were tasked with spending money related to building the wall and building more beds to detain people and more immigration judges. So our focus on the budget was on the immigration side. How do we get the money necessary to address the catastrophe and the invasion that's happened over the last 4 years? In natural resources, I'm going to say that I think Wyoming has come out better than any state in the nation because we're really focused on energy development and production. So we actually are going to generate revenue for the Treasury through additional oil and gas development. We're protecting our coal industry. We are going to do more in terms of protecting our national forests by actually managing them and producing timber for domestic use right here at home. So it was about, 15 hours or so that we did it. We made it through. We got our bill out of committee. I'm extremely proud for what it does for Wyoming.
I love this. You're just basically answering President Trump's call to unleash American energy. Wyoming's uniquely poised to do that. Your work on the Natural Resource Committee, the markup, where does it go next?
So then what happens is the budget committee, so we have two more big committees next week that will be doing their markup, Ways and Means, and that's where the tax policy is, that's where that resides. And as you know, in 2017, under the first Trump administration, they did the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which absolutely unleashed the economy in this country. Those tax cuts, however, are set to expire at the end of this year. So if we do not continue with that same level of taxes, every person in this country will see a dramatic tax increase come January 1, 2026. So we're racing against the clock to make sure that that doesn't happen. The middle class was the primary beneficiary of those tax cuts back in 2017, and we want to make sure that they stay in place. But eventually, we have 12 different committees in the House of Representatives. And eventually the Budget Committee will take all of our markups, all of the bills we've put together, and put them together in one package that will be sent to the Senate for consideration. They will then do their committee work over there, somewhat similar to what we do, except they don't have as many committees. They're not named exactly the same thing. But for example, they will be looking through what the Natural Resource Committee does and hopefully keep it intact.
Oil, gas, coal. Wyoming's ready to do its part with domestic energy, but we're still a little bit handcuffed in some areas. The Buffalo and Rock Springs Resource Management Plans, BLM, I think that's included in this markup, Congresswoman Hageman. What I hear and what I read is this can't be walked back. Is that, can we do anything about it now?
Well, for the RMPs, yeah, Congress has the ability to block them. And in fact, right now, Doug Burgum has pulled them both off the table. Okay. So right now, neither the Rock Springs RMP nor the Buffalo RMP are going into effect. But both of those RMPs, because of the economic impact that they have in Wyoming and the nation as a whole, the repealing of both of those RMPs is included within our natural resources markup. That's another reason why I say that Wyoming did very, very well in terms of the natural resource bill that we put forward. We also are reinstating quarterly onshore oil and gas leases in Wyoming. And we're getting rid of the coal moratorium that was put in place by the last administration and making it so that we won't see moratoria in the future. So those are just some of the things. We also are going to be modernizing the ESA to the extent that we could do some of that within here. And we're doing some permitting reform. What I hear over and over again, whether it is from your traditional, your legacy industries of coal, oil, and gas, any kind of mining, is that the permitting is just a nightmare. But I also hear it from the wind and solar folks as well. The permitting takes years and years and years and years. We need to streamline that. There's no reason for it. We need to cut that bureaucracy and we need to cut that red tape. And we've done some really good work in this markup.
And the work continues. You're in the news again today. Yesterday, just introduced a bill that would target college kids on a visa in cities that are considered sanctuary cities or at least unfriendly to ICE and immigration stuff. What do you, I mean, I don't know a sanctuary city in Wyoming. We know some places that don't exactly work in cooperation with ICE. And then Colorado, I know, is a state that kind of harbors. Sure. What are you thinking about here?
So, Colorado, Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, they consider themselves sanctuary states. And then there are cities within. To my knowledge, every county in Wyoming now cooperates with ICE, including Teton County. That was a development from just recently after some of the discussions we had at the end of last year. So Wyoming isn't the issue, but the point of my bill is that we are not going to give visas for students to attend colleges in sanctuary communities, sanctuary states and cities. And here's why. The fact is that these cities are violating federal law by hindering the ability of ICE to do its job. And I guess I'm awfully frustrated by their efforts to protect and shield people who oftentimes are pretty bad people at the expense of the communities in which those people live. We're seeing what has happened, and I think Columbia is the classic example of it. But what has happened on Columbia is just absolutely a travesty beyond a travesty. What is happening to the students there? They're unable to get their education. And a lot of this is being fomented by people that are not even college students. That's what they found the other day when they barricaded themselves in the library and then had to get out of there. A lot of those kids those adults did not have student IDs because they don't go to school at Columbia. But we know from the battle that the president is having in deporting some of these people who are adamantly opposed to Western civilization. They are anti-Semitic. They are anti-American. They have come here on student visas. I don't see a reason to allow them to come here to attempt to undermine and overthrow our government and our communities.
We're talking to U.S. Congresswoman Harriet Hageman. Your ability to have an ear to the ground, your radar is always on, Congresswoman Hageman, and you notice things like we just talked about. You expose the Teton County and lack of cooperation with ICE. You noticed or you heard about things going on at the Sheridan VA, so you paid a personal visit. You heard about the ranching family in South Dakota that was basically harassed by our own federal government, and you did something about it. Congrats on that, by the way. The USDA has been told to stand down when it comes to that ranching family in South Dakota. The wife, by the way, is a Wyoming lady.
Wyoming, and her family's from Wyoming. And I have family members. I have a lot of family members in Wyoming who keep their ear to the ground in the various industries. I have a nephew who has a couple of trucks, and he's the one who contacted me, and he said, Harriet, we're seeing a dramatic increase in accidents involving non-English speaking truck drivers, especially across Nebraska. That's when they first start hitting ice and snow. He said, is there anything you can do about this? So I started digging into it and found that there was a rule that requires English language proficiency. You don't have to be fluent in it, but you have to be able to read the signs as you cross I-80 where it says black ice ahead. And under the Obama administration, they issued guidance, not a rulemaking, but a guidance document doing away with that rule. And then all of a sudden you see a dramatic increase in accidents across highways like I-80. So I got involved in that. And we got we sent a letter to Duffy, and we got an executive order 2 weeks ago. I had another nephew who called me about the mod situation, and he said, Harriet, this family in South Dakota is being persecuted, and it doesn't make any sense. And so we started digging into that and finding out what happened and got involved because that was wrong. And last week, the Secretary of Agriculture dismissed both all the civil and the criminal charges against that beautiful young family. You know, our government doesn't need to be our enemy. Our government shouldn't be our enemy, and our government shouldn't be prosecuting and persecuting people when there are ways to resolve things in a different way. And so I guess that's how I feel, is that my view is my job back in Washington, D.C., is oftentimes to protect people in Wyoming and maybe other places as well from the government as much as anything.
And that's really become very quickly a legacy that I know you by, and a lot of Americans know you by, is a watchdog for government overreach. I mean, that has been your thing, and we appreciate it. You mentioned that DOT policy. I was just going to go to that next, the policy that keeps non-English speaking truckers on the road. There is almost nothing that escapes your purview. You are on it.
So one of the things about that is I've been accused. I've seen some things. One guy posted, well, she's not just another pretty face, which I thought was really funny. She's also racist to the bone. And I thought, well, this has nothing to do with race. And I really took great offense at that for a lot of reasons. One, that it is just absolutely untrue. But also, a lot of the truckers are coming from Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan. This isn't a race issue. This is an English language proficiency issue. And I hope that people understand. I don't care where you come from. If you cannot read those digital signs as you cross I-80, you do not belong on that highway.
Yeah, and the latest, I wanted to say I really like your clapback on a peer Democrat in the House regarding, is the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico really top priority in the Trump administration? Are your constituents coming up at every town hall and saying you've got to rename this Gulf? And I love your response. People say they want us to implement the agenda Donald Trump ran on, period. And I like that.
Well, that's exactly right. And one of the things that we're doing, and I've had people say, is that really the priority? But as I've indicated earlier, our priority is reconciliation. We've been working on this in the House for 6 months. It is an incredibly complicated process. So that's all that's going on in the background. We're spending, as I said, we went into the natural resources at 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday and got out at 1 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. We are spending massive amounts of time on reconciliation to make sure that this is right. My staff has spent hundreds of hours scouring things, making sure we're getting things in there that are a benefit to Wyoming. And so we're also doing other bills, such as the Gulf of America bill. But I can assure everyone we're working hard on all of these issues that are important to our state.
No rest for Congresswoman Hageman either. The next tasks, Congresswoman Hageman, will be get this nation out of debt and fix Zoom, if you could.
I'm going to work on that. I have no idea what went wrong today.
That's all right. I just want to give you like impossible things to work on because I know you can do it. Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for your work on behalf of the American people and Wyomingites everywhere.